Okay, we're going to do some more truth tables today. We're going to look at 3 variable truth tables, so we're taking it up a notch. The first thing we're going to think about is remembering that we always have to just look at 2 variables at a time. 1 connection at a time, 2 variables at a time, okay? So if we have, and we're going to just start with standard form, if we have an argument that says, if P, then not Q and R, if R, then Q, not P, therefore not R and not Q. Okay? That's my made up argument. We're going to see how this works. Okay? So, I have a lot of things to think about. First of all, I have 3 different variables. Okay? We haven't done this before. So, I know I have my 2 constant truth values, 3 variables, so I need 8 rows. Okay, so that's going to take a little bit of setup, but that's okay. And we have this complex thing. Remember, each line is a separate premise, and then we have our therefore conclusion. We can only look at 1 connector, 1 connection, 1 relationship at a time. Okay, so we have to kind of break a couple of these apart. They won't be too hard. The first one is really the only one we have to break apart. So I'm going to start over here a little bit so I can maybe end up right. So we have P, and we have Q, and we have R. Okay, we know we need those. That's fine. Now, we also need, from this first line, we also need to have a Q and R and a not Q and R. Okay, that gets us down to 1 relationship. The other thing we'll need to have is here, we're going to need to have a not R and a not Q. And I'm going to put them next to themselves over here. I'm going to do a not Q and a not R so that I have them really close to each other, but I'm going to use different colors so they don't screw me up, hopefully. Okay, so this is my whole guide. I need all of that before I even get started on my argument. And again, I know truth tables look very tedious, and sometimes they are, but they always work the same way all the time, and they always give us the right answer, so they're worth the work. Okay, so here I need a column for each of my premises, okay? And if I had infinite board space, I would write them all out this way. But here's what I'm going to do. Here's my number 1, okay? I'm going to do, number 1 here is P, if P, then not Q and R. Really little, so you can probably not see it unless you really scrunch in. This is 2, this is 3, this is 4, just so you can kind of see what it is. Okay, so number 2 here is if R, then Q. Number 3 is not P. And my therefore, number 4 is not R and not Q. Okay? So I have a lot of work to do. We're going to walk through this, and then we're going to talk about a few of the ways this can get really interesting. This is a pretty long, involved truth table, but it's going to show us a lot of different things, so I think it'll be worth it. Maybe I've messed this up forever, but we'll see. So I know my P and Q and R. I'm going to forget that the purple guys, the dark ones here, are here at all. So I have 8 rows to do. So I'm going to draw me a little line about halfway through so that it will hopefully keep me fairly centered and I can figure out where my things go across. So my half and half rule, remember, we have 8 rows, so we're going to start off with 4 trues and then 4 falses, okay, because half of 8 is 4. Now half of that is 2, right? So I'm going to start with 2 trues, 2 falses, 2 trues, true falses, okay? And then half of that is 1, so 1 true, 1 false, 1 true, 1 false, all the way down the line, hopefully keeping them sort of straight. lined paper is a blessing, okay? So before I move on too far, I know I'm going to need this not Q and not R, so I'm going to go ahead and do them here in a different color. And so remember, the knots are opposite day, okay, which is going to be a theme going through here. So every time my regular Q is true, my not Q is going to be false, okay? So false, false. And every time it's false, it's going to be true. True, true. False, false, true, true. Okay? Now, my not R has the same problem. Every time my R is true, my not R is going to be false. Okay? So we're just going to do this one as opposite day too. False, true, false, true, false, true, false, true. Okay? That's the easy part. I'm going to use, we're going to go back to the pink one here. Q and R. Okay? So I'm going to forget about, yeah, I kind of messed us up, didn't I? Anyway, we're going to forget about the P line and we're going to forget about these purple lines. Okay? We're just going to focus on what shows up here with this Q and this R. And we know our odd man out in our conjunction is two trues. Every time there are two trues, we're true. Okay? So here I have two trues, so that one's true. I go down my list, here's another one. And I go down and make sure there aren't any others, yay. Okay, so I can just mark in falses for all the rest because I know that's the only time that line is going to be true. Okay, not so bad. Now we have another guy. Here is this one. The tilde is on the outside of my parentheses. So it means take Q and R together and then make it negative. Okay? Just like it does in math. Shh, said the M word. So here we go. It's going to be opposite of this. So false, true, true, true. False, true, true, true. Everybody see that? Not too bad. Now, the next one is really going to be interesting. Let's see if I've got a color for this. We're going to do a conditional between two truth values. We do this all the time, right? Not hard. But this time, we're going to do it based from the P and the not quantity Q and R. Okay? So I'm going to look at the very first row here, very first column here, and the very last column in my guide, and I'm going to put that relationship's truth value here. Hopefully that makes sense. So my number one, if P, then Q and R. Not Q and R, sorry. If P, then not Q and R. So I have a true and a false. Oh, my first one's false. I know that already. Okay, true and true is true. True and true, back it out a little bit, is true. True and true again, true. False and false, we are false. All of my others, see, all of my others here start with false. The only time my conditional is false is if I start with a true, but my second one is false. I start with false here, so I can just label all the rest of these guys true. Okay, so in this line, my very first one is false. Everything else is true. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Now, we have to do a little bit of satiating. Oh, let's see what color we can use here. Oh, let's use this one. So this time, it's going to be a little bit weird for us. Not that all these other ones haven't been weird, okay? But I want to do if R, then Q. The difficulty comes that our Q line, our Q column, comes before our R column. And so you have to think about the direction is important. And so I'm going to take the R to the Q, okay? Now look at the way my arrow is facing here. From R to Q. So I have to make sure that my R is my first element. Okay, so I have to look from T to T. Okay, that one's true. I'm looking at my two positives here. So false to true is also true. False to false, oh, sorry, I'm not doing that right. True to false is false. False to false is true. True to true is true. False to true is true. True to false is false. False to false is false. Let me make sure I did that right up here. True, false, true. Okay, good. Happy day. So we have true, true, false, true, 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 false, true. Okay, for that line. Now, we have, well, we haven't done yet, is our P. This P is positive. This P, number 3 here, is negative. Okay, it's a not. So it's an easy one though, because we have 4 trues and 4 falses. So we're going to just turn them upside down. And we have false, 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 true, 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 true. Okay? Everybody see that? Because all of the places where P is true, not P is false. And all the places where P is false, not P is true. Okay? Okay, last but not least, we have not R. Oh, that's not going to work, is it? Okay, we're going to go back to this guy here. Not R and not Q. We're going to use purple because they're purple. My apologies for the color issues here, but it's okay. We know with my R and Q that the only time it's true is when both of my elements are true. So it doesn't really matter about the direction. Okay, the only one that's really directional is the conditional. So I'm going to look here at my 2 dark colors here, and every time if I find one that is true and true, I'm going to mark it true. Okay, true. So all of my others are false. Okay. So there's my very colorful, very crowded truth table for this particular argument. Okay? So now I'm going to look at all of my false conclusions. Here's my conclusion, number 4, right? This is my conclusion. So this one, I'm lucky. It has at least one false premise, so it's okay. Here's another one. 1 false premise, we're good. 2 false premises, another good. True is always good. Now, here's our drop of poison in the water. Okay? I have a false conclusion, but 3, all of my premises are true. Okay? This is an invalid argument. Because we know, right, it's impossible for a valid argument to have a false conclusion but all true premises. It's impossible. Remember, when we go back to deductive argument, if our premises are true, our conclusion has to be true. And here it's false. So, this is an invalid structure. Okay, this is an invalid argument. And I know, it's very messy, there's a lot of it there, but again, walk through it step by step. Everything looks the same way all the time, okay? We use the same 2 pieces. They come out the same every time. We can make something this complex out of our 4 little truth table givens, and that's pretty much it, okay? Now, we have a lot of different ways we can look at this. I get the question almost every semester, why do I have to learn truth tables? Why do I have to do this? How's it going to help me in life? Is my boss ever going to ask me to write a truth table? Probably not. But the big deal here is it's teaching you a way of following steps to get an answer. It's a very pure, correct, OCD, for lack of a better term, I can say that I am OCD, so this appeals to me. I I want you to know that I know you're not going to use this straight up truth tables some way down the line, okay? Unless you're like me and you end up teaching this stuff, then you use it all the time. But the big deal here is it's teaching you a way to follow steps. It's teaching you that you can follow steps, lots and lots of steps, to get an answer, okay? And you can have confidence that that answer is correct because the rules work, okay? One of the things that I have seen over and over again from our advisory councils here at JCC is that employers are looking for workers who can stick with a problem until they figure it out, who can problem solve in very particular, meticulous ways, and who aren't frustrated in the first 5 seconds. Okay, we Americans tend to have very short attention spans, and so to do all of this, yes, is very tedious. But there are going to be times when you have to solve a problem and it's not going to be a quick fix. Okay, think about it this way too. Say you're trying to figure out which of your customers needs to receive certain kinds of information. We all hate to be bombarded with email or paper or whatever. And so if you want to target it, you have to think about how many pieces of your database do you have to go through to make sure that the people who get the information really need it and that the people who need the information get it. Okay, it's not always the same thing. And so a truth table like this could represent a database filled with clients, filled with customers. And you have to ping out the ones that don't fit and make sure that the ones that need it get it, okay? All the truths. And I know from raising children and being in school and being a teacher that there are lots of times when I have to rethink what I'm teaching, how I'm teaching it, what I'm going to do next, to make sure that everybody's lights come on. And sometimes it means trial and error. Sometimes it means making sure I've done all the things from different vantage points, whether it's an audio or a visual or kinesthetic, which is why sometimes in class, not everything applies to you. You're not the only one in class, okay? So this particular method may not be your cup of tea, and that's okay. We have to do things that we don't like in our jobs, in daily life. Sometimes it's better for somebody else to get the floor instead of us. And so this is a way for you to figure out arguments and complexities and things like that. And what I want you to do is give it a good shot. That's all I'm asking. Give it a try. Don't let it frustrate you. It does occasionally frustrate, but remember that it works the same way all the time. When you get stuck, look at what you're actually doing, okay? Make sure you've aligned your T's and F's up. If you get the wrong answer, that's okay, okay? It's very rarely, unless we're, brain surgeons or something like that, that we can't go back and fix things, or that we don't have somebody else who's also working on the same problem that can kind of bounce things off of each other. But if we don't try in the first place, we will never learn it, okay? So give it a shot. I'm going to walk through some of the exercises in the 3-part variables here in the next little set. So if you're still confused and you need some more help, go on to the exercises part for 6C, and I'll see you there. Okay, happy day.